My parents forced me to cancel my wedding for my sister's fake engagement, so I exposed her cheating, lost their support, and took back my life. I've been mulling this over for a while, and I could really use your input. I'm 28, female, and I've been engaged to my fiancé, Jake, who is 30, for about 8 months now. We've been planning our October wedding, and everything was smooth sailing until last week when my parents dropped a bombshell on us. For context, my sister Mia, who is 25, has always been the golden child in our family. She's been dating her boyfriend Tom, who is 26, for about 2 years. My parents have always favored Mia, giving her the royal treatment in pretty much every aspect of our lives. I hate to sound bitter, but I always felt like there were areas where I excelled more than Mia, yet I never received any recognition for it. For example, back in high school, I was a straight A student and played on the volleyball team, while Mia was a cheerleader. While I respect cheerleading, it would have been nice for my parents to show the same enthusiasm for my achievements. Over time, I became accustomed to my absent parents and learned to expect almost nothing from them. This led me to distance myself from Mia. My immature self blamed her for everything, even though deep down, I knew it wasn't her fault. It wasn't until college, when I met Jake, the love of my life, that my perspective changed. He helped me realize that I was worthy of love and deserved just as much attention as anyone else. Jake showed me that I was special in my own way, and if someone didn't appreciate my achievements, that was their loss. I also came to understand that it wasn't fair to blame Mia when it was actually our parents' fault. So I decided to make an effort to rekindle whatever sisterly bond we had left. I started checking in on her more often and let her know that she could talk to me about anything. Naturally, she was a bit hesitant at first, but she eventually became more comfortable opening up to me. We began talking about almost everything, no matter how trivial or serious it was. Even though our interests and life choices were a little different, I was happy that our relationship was slowly improving. It felt like we were finally becoming the sisters we should have been all along. In fact, when Jake finally proposed to me, she was the first one to know. She was as excited as I was and told me that she could not wait to help me plan my wedding. At that moment, I felt like everything was perfectly working out. That's why I was completely caught off guard when my mom called last Wednesday. The call started innocently enough. My mom asked about wedding preparations, which was unusual since she hadn't shown much interest before. I should have sensed something was off. After a few minutes of small talk, she finally got to the point. Mia and Tom were planning to get engaged. As soon as those words came out of her mouth, I was thrilled for my sister. What could be better than this? But then I realized that she had said they were planning to get engaged, which threw me off. I asked my mom what she meant by that, and she replied that Mia had told her that Tom had been hinting at proposing, asking her ring size, and telling her to buy a new dress. While these were solid signs, Mia always had this habit of romanticizing everything and making things seem bigger than they actually were. I didn't want Mia to have her expectations soaring high, only to be disappointed. I asked my mom if she was 100% sure that Tom was proposing, and she said she was. I thought this would be the end of the call, but another surprise was coming my way, and this time, I wasn't happy about it. Since Tom and Mia were getting engaged, my mother asked me to cancel my wedding. I was stunned. I asked her to clarify, thinking I must have misunderstood, but no, she was dead serious. She wanted me to cancel the wedding that Jake and I had been planning for 10 months. We wanted the wedding of our dreams and didn't want to compromise on anything. We had already put down deposits on the caterers and other vendors, and moving everything back a year would mean losing a significant amount of money, not to mention the hassle of rescheduling everything. I'm not sure what got into my mom and dad, but when we were short on money, they suddenly offered to pay for the venue. Honestly, it felt like they did it just to compete with Jake's parents. But honestly, I was so happy that my parents were finally taking an interest in my life that I didn't focus on their vindictive nature. But wait, this isn't even the worst part. You haven't heard the reason why I should postpone my wedding for a supposed engagement. My mom explained that Mia wanted a full year of being the center of attention with her engagement photos and announcements on social media. I was beyond confused. Who makes their sister cancel her wedding and lose money over something as superficial as social media? I tried to reason with my mom and told her that I wouldn't post anything about my wedding anywhere, but she insisted that if I didn't agree to postpone, they would withdraw all the money they had promised for the wedding. At this point, they were basically blackmailing me because their precious daughter was an attention seeker. I told my mom that this was ridiculous and unfair. We argued for a while, with her insisting that I was being selfish and inconsiderate of Mia's feelings. I kept asking her what about my feelings, but all I got in response was the fact that if I went ahead with my wedding, they wouldn't pay for the venue. I felt outraged. I didn't deserve this. All my life, I had sacrificed things for Mia's sake, and now that I was finally about to have the day of my dreams, it was being snatched away from me. Out of sheer frustration and anger, I did something I never thought I would. I called Tom, Mia's fiancé, to tell him something about Mia that he didn't know. A while ago, when everything was fine, the four of us went on a double date, Jake and I, and Mia and Tom. It was one of those rare occasions when we all had time to hang out together, and I remember feeling genuinely happy. We laughed and shared stories, and for once, everything seemed perfect. At one point during the evening, Mia and I excused ourselves to the restroom to freshen up. As we were fixing our makeup, Mia handed me her phone to hold while she washed her hands. Suddenly, a text message popped up on the screen. It was from someone named Mike, asking if they could meet again. My heart skipped a beat. I knew there was a guy named Mike that Mia had dated some time back, but I had assumed he was out of the picture. I couldn't resist asking, "Who's Mike? Why is he asking to meet again?" Mia immediately became squirmy and tried to brush it off, saying it was nothing, just some old friend reaching out. But I could see the anxiety in her eyes, so I pressed on, asking if something was going on between her and Mike. She answered that there had been some texting going back and forth, but it was nothing serious. When I asked if Tom knew about this, she just said that he didn't need to because it was nothing, and rolled her eyes. I know that it's none of my business what my sister does, but Tom seemed like a good guy who loved Mia with his whole heart, so I just couldn't shake off the uneasy feeling. I let it go because Mia assured me later on that she wasn't talking to her ex anymore. But in that moment, when Mia was trying to take my happiness away from me, my brain went haywire. When I called Tom, I spilled everything about the text I had seen that day. If that wasn't enough, I told him that he should keep tabs on his girlfriend. Looking back, I know this was kind of wrong. Not the part about telling Tom the truth, of course, but the way I did it. But it was too late now. 2 days after I chatted with Tom, I got a call from Mom, and let's just say I was glad I wasn't in front of her. She was screaming like a maniac, as if a disaster had struck. But then her words hit me. I had made a big mistake. Apparently, Tom called Mia and told her they needed to talk. Mia, who thought she was about to get engaged, got all dolled up. But when she finally reached the place, she was met with a very angry Tom. He told her about what I had said and asked her if it was true. Mia denied it at first, but then Tom asked her for her phone. She became defensive, telling him that he should trust her. Ultimately, Tom broke up with Mia. There was no chance Mom and Dad were going to forgive me for this. I could hear Mia in the background cursing me, while Mom was also shouting at me. I kept apologizing and trying to explain myself. I only went through with it because they told me I had to cancel my wedding, and I couldn't bear to let go after putting so much effort into planning it. Then, my dad made the decision to withdraw the money they had contributed for the venue. At that moment, I felt like I had lost everything. My parents, Mia, and any chance of having a wedding. I was sure Jake wouldn't be happy with me either, after hearing what had happened. I tried to call Mia to discuss things, but she wasn't picking up any of my calls or responding to my texts. Jake was on a business trip at the time, so he was unaware that our wedding was in jeopardy, partly because of me. The distress was overwhelming, and I felt guilty for ruining Mia's relationship, even though it wasn't entirely my fault. When Jake returned from his business trip, I finally told him everything, and to my relief, he was incredibly supportive. He reassured me that we would figure things out together. Jake helped me realize that I was simply being honest and that I probably should have done that much earlier regarding the wedding. We decided to go ahead with it, even if it meant cutting down on costs. We started brainstorming ways to save money and reached out to friends and family to explain the situation. To our surprise, one of Jake's friends came to our rescue and used one of his contacts to secure an elegant yet affordable venue. All we had to do was postpone the wedding a little longer, which was honestly okay with me, given the circumstances. Throughout this process, I continued trying to reach out to my parents. While writing this, I wonder why I did so, but at the time, I was just scared of disappointing Mom and Dad, and the guilt was consuming me. However, they remained stubborn and refused to attend my wedding, even if it went ahead as planned. Despite the obstacles, wedding planning continued, and everything started to fall into place. However, we also noticed that many of my relatives either said they would not attend or simply didn't respond at all. I didn't need to be Sherlock to guess that the news had spread. According to one of my aunts, Mom and Mia made me seem like a soap opera villain who couldn't accept her sister's happiness and lied to sabotage it. They also twisted the narrative, telling everyone that Mia was already engaged and set to marry, while I wanted everyone's attention on me. Ignoring me was one thing, but lying about my character was exhausting. By this point, I was just tired. I wanted to have a wedding where I felt and looked my best, but after everything that had taken place, I just couldn't. At the same time, I couldn't let my parents affect me as they had for the rest of my life. They blamed me for ruining Mia's life and accused me of being jealous and spiteful. Mia, on the other hand, was devastated. She hadn't spoken to me since the incident, and I couldn't help but feel guilty, even though I knew what I did was right. So, I am asking you all for advice on whether I should have postponed my wedding and told Jake about her cheating. It has been a few days since I posted, and the fallout has been intense. Surprisingly, my parents have started talking to me, but not for the reasons you might think. They demand that I apologize to Mia and somehow fix the situation with Tom. They even threatened to disown me if I didn't comply. Jake has been incredibly supportive throughout all this, reassuring me that we made the right decision and that we should focus on our upcoming wedding. Mia, however, finally reached out to me. She was livid and heartbroken, accusing me of ruining her life and sabotaging her happiness out of spite. It was a difficult conversation. I tried to explain my side, but she wasn't willing to listen. She kept saying I had no right to interfere in her relationship, regardless of what she had done. I eventually lost my temper and asked her who gave her the right to think she could control my wedding plans, which had been in motion long before she was even close to getting engaged. Before I could even begin to address the lies she and Mom had been spreading about me, she hung up. As news of the family feud spread like wildfire, I received an unexpected call from Meg, a childhood friend I hadn't heard from in years. I had lost touch with Meg after moving out for college, and our communication had been limited to social media. Mia, however, had maintained contact with her for a while longer. Meg revealed another shocking incident involving Mia's infidelity that occurred about a year ago. It was Meg's 25th birthday party, and Mia was there. But her then boyfriend Tom was not, because he was apparently on a trip. As the night went on and nearly everyone became drunk, Meg noticed Mia becoming increasingly flirtatious with several male guests, including Meg's boyfriend. At first, Meg brushed it off as Mia's typical behavior. She had always been a natural flirt. However, as the party began to wind down and guests started to leave, Meg realized she hadn't seen either Mia or her boyfriend for quite some time. Eventually, she caught them red-handed together in another room. This was particularly scandalous because Mia and Tom had been together for 2 to 3 years at that point, and of course, she had played a part in traumatizing Meg. I was just surprised how this had been hidden from Tom for so long, and how nobody from the party ever told him about it. The incident caused a rift between Meg and Mia, ending their friendship. When Meg heard about everything, she thought that Mia should know that Mia didn't do anything by accident. She had become accustomed to this behavior, and somehow always got away with it. I was stunned by this new information. I realized that Mia's cheating wasn't a one-time mistake, but a pattern of behavior. I made only one request to Meg. Could she do me a favor and inform Tom herself? I had my reasons for this. Jake, my fiancé, had visited Tom, and he was not doing very well either. He was second-guessing everything. While he didn't say it, I was sure he must have been blaming me for believing everything I said. It would be much better if this heartbreaking news came from someone who was not me. I also did not want to do this because I could not feed the fire regarding my jealousy of Mia. As soon as Tom received this news from Meg, he wanted to meet in person to talk things through. I agreed, hoping that we could find some resolution, or at least clear the air. We met at a local coffee shop, and it was evident that he was still in shock from everything that had happened. Meg's information was just another shockwave that hit him, but he was glad to finally know he had made the right decision. Tom also told me how exactly his breakup with Mia happened. Mia was right to think that Tom was planning to propose to her. After our conversation, he confronted Mia about the cheating, and she eventually confessed. He was devastated but appreciated my honesty, saying it was better to know the truth now than to find out later, possibly after they were married. He admitted that he had sensed something was off in their relationship for a while, but couldn't put his finger on it until I called. We talked for a long time, and Tom shared that he was planning to take some time for himself to heal and reevaluate his life. He thanked me for being brave enough to tell him the truth, even though it was painful. This conversation gave me a sense of closure, knowing that I had done the right thing by being honest with Tom. Despite this, the situation with my family hasn't improved. My parents are still siding with Mia, insisting that I was out of line and that I need to make amends. They can't seem to grasp why I did what I did, focusing only on Mia's heartbreak and not on the fact that she was the one who cheated. I've also received a lot of support from friends and extended family who heard about the situation. Many of them expressed disbelief at my parents' behavior and commended me for standing up for what was right. It's been a mixed bag of emotions, but I'm grateful for the support from those who understand my perspective. I'm trying to stay focused on the positive and keep planning for my wedding. Jake and I have decided to move forward with our plans, regardless of my parents' threats. We've made some adjustments to the budget and are looking into ways to make the wedding special without their financial support. I know this isn't the end of the drama, but I'm determined to stand my ground. I refuse to let my parents' favoritism and Mia's actions dictate my life any longer. It's time for me to prioritize my happiness and future with Jake. Update 2. Hi everyone. My life just keeps getting more complicated with every passing moment. About 4 days after my first update, things took a dramatic and unexpected turn. Just when I thought the situation couldn't get any worse, it did. I was at work trying to focus on my tasks when I received an urgent call from Jake. He sounded panicked and told me to come home immediately. I hurried back, fearing something terrible had happened. When I arrived, I found Jake was clearly distressed. Distressed, he handed me a letter that had slipped under our door. It was from a lawyer representing my parents. They were threatening to sue me for defamation and emotional distress over the fallout from Mia's broken engagement. I was stunned. My own parents were taking legal action against me. The letter detailed how my actions had caused them severe emotional pain and damaged Mia's reputation. It demanded a public apology and a retraction of my statement about Mia's cheating, along with a substantial financial settlement. My parents had literally crossed boundaries to be as vindictive as possible. As I read the letter, my phone started buzzing. It was Mia. She was calling repeatedly. I finally picked up, hoping to get some answers. Mia's voice was a mix of anger and desperation. She screamed at me, saying that I had ruined her life and that she had nothing left. She mentioned that she had lost her job because Tom had told their mutual friends and colleagues about her cheating. The news had spread like wildfire, and she was now the subject of gossip and judgment. She was considered problematic, which led to her getting fired. After receiving that legal scare from my parents, I told Mia that she got what she deserved. I tried to reason with her, explaining that she needed to take responsibility for her actions. But she was inconsolable. She accused me of being jealous and vindictive, claiming I had always wanted to see her fail. The conversation left me feeling drained and hopeless. Jake and I spent the rest of the evening discussing our options. We couldn't afford to get tangled in a legal battle with my parents, but we also couldn't let them bully us into submission. I think they knew we were already balancing our funds for the wedding, so this legal battle would just put the nail in the coffin. The next day, I reached out to a lawyer for advice, and he was shocked by the situation, but assured me that we had a strong case. He suggested that we gather evidence of Mia's infidelity and the impact it had on her relationship with Tom. He also advised us to prepare for a counterclaim if my parents followed through with their threats. While all of this was happening, I received another unexpected call, this time from Tom's mother. She had heard about the situation and wanted to thank me for telling Tom the truth. She said that Tom was devastated but grateful to have found out before making a lifelong commitment. She also mentioned that Tom was planning to move to a different city to start fresh. Her call was a small comfort in the midst of all the chaos. It reminded me that despite the immediate fallout, I had done the right thing by being honest. My parents and Mia could act as wildly as they wanted, but that wouldn't change the fact that they were in the wrong. That weekend, things took another dramatic turn. My parents showed up at our house unannounced. They were furious and demanded to speak with me. Jake tried to keep them calm, but it quickly escalated into a shouting match. My father accused me of destroying the family, while my mother sobbed and pleaded with me to fix things with Mia. They repeated their threats to cut me off financially and to proceed with the lawsuit if I didn't comply with their demands. I stood my ground, refusing to be bullied into submission. I told them that Mia's actions had consequences, and that I would not apologize for telling the truth. The confrontation ended with my parents storming out, vowing to proceed with the lawsuit. The next few days were a blur of legal consultations and emotional turmoil. Jake and I tried to focus on our wedding plans, but the stress was overwhelming. We started receiving messages from extended family members who had heard about the situation, some offering support and others criticizing my actions. I especially hated putting Jake in the middle of this drama because he didn't deserve any of it, but I was also grateful for his support amidst it all. I received a surprising message from Meg, the childhood friend who had told me about Mia's previous infidelity. She offered to provide a statement about what had happened at her party, which could be crucial evidence if my parents decided to pursue legal action. With Meg's support and the evidence we were gathering, I began to feel a glimmer of hope. It was clear that this battle was far from over, but I was determined to stand my ground and fight for what was right. While I am at it, I also want to thank you all for becoming my support system during this time. It hasn't been easy, but you guys have given me a clear perspective. So I will see you all in a while. Update 3. Hey everyone, a few more days have passed and things have only gotten more tense. I finally reached my breaking point with my parents and Mia, who kept insisting we meet in person to talk things out. Jake and I agreed, hoping this confrontation might finally bring some clarity and resolution. We decided to meet at our house, where we could control the environment and avoid a public spectacle. When my parents and Mia arrived, there was a palpable tension in the air. They sat down, and I could see the anticipation in their eyes. They probably thought I was going to apologize and beg for forgiveness, but I had no intention of backing down. I started by addressing the elephant in the room. I told them that I understood why everyone was here today, but before we went any further, I wanted to make one thing clear. I'm not here to apologize. I'm here to lay out the facts. My parents and Mia exchanged confused glances, clearly not expecting this. I took a deep breath and began presenting my case. I started with the cheating incident that happened a few months ago. I asked Mia if it wasn't true that she handed me her phone during a double-date dinner, and I found out she was talking to her ex-boyfriend Mike while she was in a serious relationship with Tom. I then mentioned that she claimed it was a one-time mistake, but we both knew that wasn't true, didn't we? I could see Mia's face turn pale as she shifted uncomfortably in her seat. I continued, pulling out a folder filled with evidence. I let her know that I spoke with Meg, who hosted that party a year ago, and she confirmed that Mia was caught cheating with her boyfriend. This wasn't just a one-time mistake, it was a pattern of behavior. I handed over the written statement from Meg, and my parents and Mia glanced at it, their expressions turning from confusion to shock. But that wasn't all. I pulled out another piece of evidence. Mia had no idea that I had text messages from her to Meg, where she admitted to cheating and begged Meg not to tell Tom. These messages were time-stamped and left no room for doubt. I placed the printed messages on the table, and my mother gasped while my father's face turned red with anger, though this time, it seemed directed more at me than at Mia. Then I revealed Tom's statement in a letter. He detailed how he confronted Mia after our conversation and how she eventually confessed. He also described the emotional toll her infidelity took on him and how it affected his decision not to propose. My parents were speechless, staring at the documents in front of them, unable to refute the overwhelming evidence. Mia's eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing, clearly realizing the gravity of the situation. Next, we addressed the lawsuit. I firmly told my parents that they had threatened to sue me for defamation and emotional distress. But based on this evidence, it was clear that everything I said was true. They had no legal grounds to stand on. In fact, if they pursued this, I had a strong case for a counterclaim. The room fell silent as my parents and Mia were clearly stunned, processing the reality of the situation. I felt relief after so long, knowing that I had finally stood up for myself. I told Mia one last time that I didn't do this out of spite or jealousy. I did this because it was the right thing to do. Mia's actions have consequences, and it was time for her to take responsibility. As for my wedding, my message was simple. It was going ahead as planned, with or without their support. Jake and I were getting married, and we wouldn't let anyone ruin our happiness. I stood up, signaling the end of the conversation, hoping this could be a turning point for all of us. With that, I walked out of the room, feeling a sense of closure. I knew there would still be challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long time, I felt in control of my own life. My parents and Mia could go ahead with their lawsuit, but now they knew I would be facing them head on, and no good would come out of that. As Jake and I moved forward with our new life, the support from our friends and extended family kept us going. We knew the path to healing with my family and sister would be long and difficult, but we were ready to face it together. In the end, standing up for myself and doing what was right brought a sense of peace that I had been missing for so long. As Jake and I looked toward our future, I knew we were stronger for having faced these challenges head on. This definitely wouldn't have happened without all the suggestions and encouragement in the comments. I have learned a lot from you and your stories.